One of my least anticipated, most, God damn it, man, I don't want this to come out. I really don't, okay? It was the sequel that was a meme for a very, very, very long time. But on November 22nd, we're going to be getting Gladiator II. Nobody wants this, man, okay? The original, the 2000 masterpiece, Russell Crowe's arguably his best work, okay? I could hear arguments potentially for LA Confidential, but seriously, Maximus Decimus Meridius, okay, is a legend. It's a legendary film. It is a one-off that should be left as one. But we're going to be getting the sequel November 22nd. Don't know how well it's going to do, but apparently Warner Brothers is also seeing the writing on the wall by going, what the hell is going on over here? And they're going to try to fabricate the Oppenheimer, the Barbie phenomenon. They're going to try to run back the Barbenheimer gimmick with what? Wicked-ator? Galacted? Because Wicked ended up bumping up its release date. Okay, so it's going to be dropping on the 22nd of November as well. And I don't know, man, it's definitely not going to replicate that success. Okay, that was a one-off. That was a phenomenon in and of itself, with Barbie being, probably the most popular girl brand on the face of the earth, and Oppenheimer just, I don't know, being a Christopher Nolan flick. I don't think anybody's ever going to get to the bottom and get to the full understanding of what made that duality such a success, but trying to replicate it some 18 months later with two much lesser films. It's a bold strategy. Let's see how well it works out for them, because Vanity Fair just did a big old spread, and well, man, what I'm seeing once again, I don't like it. I don't like it at all, because this is supposed to be, for as far as I know, in regards to the plot, this is supposed to be Commodus's son, and he's a gladiator? Okay, so he was the heir to the Roman Empire, right? Even though Maximus, I get, potentially had a bit of sway right before he died. Spoiler, the end of Gladiator. But this should theoretically be Caesar? But he's fighting Pedro Pascal. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Fantastic. I'm sorry, Din Djarin. I'm sorry, the most overrated actor in all of Hollywood right now. Like I said, I've seen a bunch of these promo stills, and there's one that really does stick out, but could end up being the best performance in the entire film. But there's another one where it's like, Jesus Christ, man, like, this guy's not popular by any other metric except for that Hollywood really likes him because he espouses the right politics. But let's take a look at this. Paul Mescal versus Pedro Pascal. A first look at the epic Gladiator II, Ridley Scott. Yeah, that's another thing. And we just recently talked about Doctor Who and how Russell T Davies kind of lost the thing that a lot of old creatives who have come back to tread well-worn ground normally fall into. They just don't have it anymore. Ridley Scott, I mean, like, how many things has he done in recent years that have been looked at and went, he did Alien, okay? He did Blade Runner, and he did Prometheus and Alien Covenant and Blade Runner 2049. I know that was Denis Villeneuve, but he was attached to that. He did Napoleon, okay, and now he wants to do Gladiator 2. Okay, Paul Mescal turns and looks out the window as he talks about playing a warrior fighting for his life in Ridley Scott's long braced for sequel to Gladiator. Now, light strikes the steep angles of his face for a moment. Is this an interview, or is this the beginning of a smut piece? Holy. And for a moment, it's easy to picture him in a millennia-old marble bust. My nose is just kind of Roman, he says. And you know what else is kind of Roman? My salute. So it's useful in this context. The nose, I absolutely hated when I was in secondary school, and used to get ribbed for. Became very, very useful when Ridley needed somebody to be in Gladiator 2. Or yeah, no, he looks the part, but why is this a part to begin with? Jesus, okay. Because there was a script way back in the cut. I've heard rumors of this, and I couldn't find anything tangible on it. But there was an idea for Gladiator 2 like 10, 15 years ago, okay, when Russell Crowe was still young and fit enough to be in the role, where it was going to be Maximus fighting through hell, fighting Hades, it sounds absolutely wild. And frankly, if it came out in 2005, 2008, in that era, I might have been down for that. But at this point, Mescal, sorry, different one, didn't expect that his breakthrough role in the sensitive overachiever Connell Waldron in the romantic series Normal People would lead to him playing the ferocious sword-swinging hero in the follow-up to 2001's Best Picture winner. Came out in 2000, get your sources right. But the swoony adaptation of Sally Rooney's bestseller is where Scott discovered him. When I watched anything, I tend to be clocking who's interesting, the director says. It's just my DNA, and so watching the TV show, that's not really my kind of TV show almost 4 years ago, I said, who is this guy? The possibility of Gladiator II became more and more real. Scott arranged a Zoom with Mescal while the actor was performing A Streetcar Named Desire in London 4 years ago. That was in 2020. How could that have happened? But okay, I met with him and said, of course, I'd love to do it. And that was that, Scott said. No, we were away and running with the ball. He was a special find. He was absolutely perfect. And we know, okay, like this film has been in development, okay, at least this iteration of Gladiator 2 has been in development for a very long time, and it is running up against that $400 million budget mark. Jesus, really did happen that fast, Mescal confirms. We spoke for about 20 to 30 minutes, he says. I wanted to get the flavor from him, pause, about what the story was going to be about, and we spent 15 minutes talking about that. We spent 15 minutes talking about one of the most unnecessary stories in all of Hollywood history, and then spent another 10 minutes talking about the sport that I played growing up, Gaelic football. Maybe it was something that helped with it, but it used to being physical in my body. Speaking of which, we've got, I guess, the major antagonist and Pedro Pascal. He looks exactly like Pedro Pascal. Okay, like, okay, he's got that. This dude is him in every single thing that I've ever watched him in. Like, he doesn't look too dissimilar to when he was Oberyn Martell. Okay, just give him a spear instead of a sword. I understand you can't change your face or anything like that, but he always has the Pedro Pascal expression on his face. When I've seen stills from The Last of Us, that's Joel Pascal. I can't take him serious. I hear he's good, but whenever I've seen him, I thought all the praise that he gets, he's super overrated. I don't like Oberyn Martell that much, okay? Sorry, that might be sacrilege. He was just kind of a hoopy fruit who had one really good monologue at the end of Mockingbird, and I laughed my ass off when the mountain popped his head like a zit. That shit was hilarious. Let's get back to this. I hate this film. I hate it already. I hope it's good, but I already know, man. I guess this is kind of what Star Wars fans feel like, because I really love Gladiator. It's really good, and this is so unnecessary, man. I know Gladiator 2 heading to theaters on November 22nd. They're ready to tell the rest of the world where the story picks up in the years after Russell Crowe's Maximus gave his life. Well, he was killed, not so much gave his life, but okay, upending the leadership of the Descendant and the corrupt society. The central character's portrayal by Mescal as Lucius, last seen as the young son of Lucia. Connie Nielsen's noblewoman, she'll be back in her role, by the way. Nielsen also returns in the sequel. There you go, playing one of the few true-life figures in the otherwise fictional Gladiator storyline. Well, except, Marcus Aurelius was at the beginning of the film and is the father to Commodus, which is also historically accurate, but that's all right. I wouldn't expect an outlet like Vanity Fair to get pesky things like history right. Yes, the daughter of the late Emperor Marcus Aurelius. In actual history, Lucia was a firebrand revolutionary who despaired the direction Rome took after her father's demise. Well, yeah, because Marcus Aurelius was the last of the 4 good emperors, and then everything descended into madness after that. As Gladiator 2 picks up in the story, decades have passed, and Lucius has come of age, far away from his mother. While he was still a child, Lucia sent him to the northern coast of Africa, to a region called Numidia. That was the point, okay, just outside the reach of the Roman Empire. It was never fully understood why. And as he grew stronger, so did his resentment, even for his mother's reasons, had been pure. Okay, there's a lot of Sophie's choice going on here. It wasn't really much of a choice because she was kind of positioned to be still seen in a generally favorable light because she was shown as the messenger of Maximus's final words, and she would have had a favorable view from the Senate, but unless they change all of that stuff up in the aftermath. But okay, so I guess, yeah, okay, now this one kind of makes sense, and this is also a reason why I think this film might be all right, because here you can see it's got Denzel Washington, man, okay, and if he's going to be kind of the surrogate father figure for Lucius, might be all right. Okay, but this is also Ridley Scott, and I've seen reviews of his more recent work, and it's like, I'm not going to get my hopes too far up. There's an authoritarian power that is parading itself as we is still somehow the vestiges of the Republic of Rome, yes, inside the travesty, are human beings who are caught up in the gamesmanship and power. That is what I find is always so interesting in Ridley's stories. He's really showing the effect of of power on people, and what happens in a place where power is unrestrained. Yeah, you end up shooting cannonballs at the pyramids of Egypt. But alright, let's just read a little bit more. Okay, Mescal saw meaning in the story beyond the thrill of men clashing swords. Oh my god, if that's what you're going to reduce Gladiator II, whatever. Okay, fighting wild animals or staging a deadly combat for the amusement of the masses. Ask what Gladiator II is really about. He says what human beings will do to survive, but also what human beings will do to win. Oh, you'll see that in the arena, but also the political struggle that's going on outside of my character's storyline. What, your mom that was so disenchanted that she sent you away, she's still going to be that same political figure, so tell me how Sophie's Choice gets worked into that. Anyways, where's the space for love, familial connection, and ultimately, will those things overcome the kind of greed and power and those that oftentimes directly in conflict with one another? Ugh. So as Gladiator 2 begins, okay, here's a little bit insight. Okay, Mescal's Lucius has a wife and child and lives a relatively peaceful life. Now with them until conquerors from his homeland begin to encroach. Is it literally just going to be running back the story from the first one? He's taken root in the seacoast town of Numidia. He's a blue-eyed, fair-skinned man with red hair, and he couldn't be more different than the inhabitants. I mean, come on, Scott says. It's one of the last surviving civilizations as the Romans begin to descend in North Africa and take it all over. Leading the charge is Pedro Pascal and Marcus Assius, a Roman general, said to have trained as a junior officer under Crowe's character, although he wasn't seen in the first movie. I mean, yeah, of course, and okay, how does that, holy shit, how does that even make sense? Okay, because, yeah, Lucius, he was a small child. He wasn't a baby, but, you know, he was toddler age, okay, 3 or 4 or something like that. And if you had somebody, okay, because he was already a year or so removed from his post, we're talking about Maximus, you're going to have Pedro Pascal, who would have trained under Maximus. It's, oh my Christ, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. He's either going to be an old man who wouldn't at all be out in the field because he would have at least be, what, 30 or 40? He'd be general level, okay? In his 30s or in his 40s, okay? Oy, oy, oy. Okay, this movie has an identity that is shaped by its legacy. It wouldn't make sense for it not to, says Pascal. Yeah, of course, he describes Assius as a fighter who learns from the best, so of course his code of honor is ingrained into his training and into his existence. Note at the end of the day, he's a different person. He can't change who he is. Maximus is Maximus. That can't be replicated, but we're sure as hell going to try that, just as Assius is capable of different things. Okay, throughout Gladiator 2, the reluctant hero encounters a number of other colorful and dubious characters. Denzel Washington plays a dashing power broker named Macrinus. Okay, Denzel is an arms dealer who supplies food for armies in Europe, supplies wine and oil, makes steel, makes spears, weapons, cannons, and catapults. So he's a very wealthy man. Instead of having a stable of racehorses, he has a stable of gladiators. It's literally a repeat of the first movie. Oh my god, he's beautiful. Pause. He drives a golden Ferrari. I got him a gold-plated chariot. As a Marcinius is good to his fighters are cruel, the filmmaker scoffs. To the guys who fight in the arena, I guess he's pretty cruel, right? Oh man, the more I read about this, the less I'm encouraged. And already my excitement for this was already at the bottom levels. But yeah, outside of maybe Denzel's going to turn in a banger performance. I don't know much about this guy. He at least looks the part, but it's also got the monumental task of following up one of the greatest films of all time. And then you're just also saddling it with the modern day trappings of a Ridley Scott script, and then also flavor of the Hollywood week and Pedro Pascal. Yeah, man. I don't know. I'm going to be incredibly skeptical. We already know that this budget is enormous, so this thing is going to have to make over $1 billion to break even. And I think there's one thing for certain, okay? We're definitely going to be able to figure out skill level of Ridley Scott and if he really is the reaper for his own franchise by the time November 22nd rolls around. Don't have hope for it, given the fact that this has been in development hell for a very long time, and to To be quite frank, I would have much rather seen the Gladiator II. That would have been in hell to begin with. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.